What's up guys, welcome back to Deck Tech for Decks. I'm your host Caleb, and today we are upgrading the final Dragon Tarkir Precon with the Jeskai Precon. And honestly, it's not terrible out of the box. We're going to take 14 cards out, we're going to add 14 cards in on an extreme budget, and that's just going to make the deck play a little bit smoother. Before we get into that, you guys can click on that whatnot link in the description down below. You'll get a free $15 whenever you sign up, and it helps support the channel. Additionally, you guys can get 10% off all of your Tolarian library proxies whenever you use code DT4D. Let's talk about Shiko and Narset here for a second though, because I want to sell you guys on a strategy that's a lot different than the upgrade guide route that I took. This strategy is just going to take a specific build around, so let's get into it. Shiko and Narset have a really cool ability that allows you to target your second spell you cast each turn as long as it targets a permanent you control, or not a permanent you control. I think this is really cool because there's a plethora of cards that deal damage whenever you cast non-creature spells. Now imagine we put an Ophidian Eye or Curiosity effect on one of those creatures, and then we copy that Ophidian Eye or Curiosity effect using our commander. Now we have two of those equipped to these creatures, and now whenever we cast a non-creature spell, assuming it deals 1 damage to all 3 of our opponents, that's going to draw us 6 cards every time we cast a non-creature spell. I think this can be an extremely explosive deck and a pretty easy build around, right? It just takes a very specific core. So let me know if you guys want to see a deck that's focused on the Ophidian Eye and Curiosity effects. If this video gets to 500 likes, I'll knock it out. But without further ado, let's get into those upgrades. The first thing I noticed when looking at this deck is we have Monastery Mentor, Third Path Iconoclast, Young Pyromancer. We're going wide and we're casting on creature spells. So I definitely wanted to keep that theme. We are going to keep Shiko and Narset as the commander. They're going to double up on some of our card advantage effects, some of our removal effects, and just add overall value. We are going to end up just cutting Narset completely from the deck. Don't worry, I have a dedicated build coming out for her soon, but she didn't really jive with the strategy since there's not a lot of ways to make her bigger in the deck. Aside from her own prowess ability, and her prowess ability is only really good when we're already popping off, and when we're already popping off, we're pretty close to winning. I just found some more cool tech I'm going to add, so this is going to be a 19 card upgrade instead. Gitaxian Probe is going to be perfect here. Not only does it help with the storm strategy, since we can just pay 2 life to cast it, it does also target a player, so that means we can even copy it with our commander. Channeled Force seems amazing here. It's probably one of the best cards in the deck. As an additional cost to cast this spell, you can discard X cards. And then it says target player draws X cards. Channeled Force deals X damage to up to 1 target creature or planeswalker. This is amazing because you don't have to pay the additional casting cost for the copy. So we can cast this, discard 4 cards, but we're really going to draw 8 cards because we get a copy of this, and then we get to do up to 8 damage to a creature or planeswalker. Seems insane, and that's honestly on the very low end. Bribery and Acquire. Now this just straight up says target player and yoink something from their deck. Bribery allows you to yoink a creature, and Acquire allows you to steal an artifact. This allows us to copy it with our commander, and now we pick 2 of our opponents and we are out tempoing them like crazy. Especially since a lot of people are playing the One Ring, you can just grab whatever player, put that in their deck, and then the other player you can just grab their Soul Ring. Pretty awesome here. I've also won a couple of games with Craterhoof Behemoth off of a bribery just because I knew the elf deck was running it, right? Path of Enigma. Simple, it's a 5 CMC spell that says target player draws 4 cards. Not that great, but whenever it's a 5 CMC spell that allows us to draw 8 cards, now I'm paying attention and it seems pretty awesome. Especially when we have a couple of cost reducers in the deck that allow us to reduce the cost of all of our instant and sorceries. River's Rebuke is kind of messed up here. It's going to allow us to actually bounce 2 of our opponent's boards, and then for the last opponent, we're just probably going to target him with all of our creatures and hopefully take him out that turn. Stroke of Midnight is just going to be some very efficient removal. Now we can get into the other cards that don't necessarily trigger off of our commander, but they're just very good for the strategy. Narset Enlightened Exile. This girl's insane. Not only does she give all of our creatures prowess, she says whenever Narset Enlightened Exile attacks, exile target non-creature non-land card with mana value less than Narset's power from a graveyard notably, and then we can copy it. You may cast the copy without paying its mana cost. So we're able to steal things from our opponent's graveyards and recast our instant and sorcery spells. This girl's perfect here. Archmage of Ruin is not only going to reduce the cost of our instant and sorcery spells, it's also going to allow us to draw a card whenever we cast an instant or sorcery spell. Artist Talent also has a lot of utility here. It says whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you may discard a card. If you do, draw a card. Then we can actually level it up, and then the level up says non-creature spells cost 1 less to cast, and then the final level up says if a source you control would deal non-combat damage to an opponent or a permanent an opponent controls, it deals that much damage plus 2 instead. Not super notable, but level 1 and level 2 are amazing here. We also have a pretty jank combo we're adding to the deck that allows us to cast almost the entirety of our deck depending on what's in our graveyard and what's in our hand. Jeskai's Ascendancy says whenever you cast a non-creature spell, creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn. Untap those creatures. So it gives everything prowess and untaps them whenever we cast a non-creature spell. I love it. And then it says whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you may draw a card. If you do, discard a card. So kind of card selection here. Go ahead and pair that with Sorcerer's Class that says whenever it enters the battlefield, you get to draw 2 cards and then discard 2 cards. Additionally, we can level that up, and it says creatures you control have add a blue or a red. Only use this mana to cast instant and sorceries. And then the third level is notable here, but I'm really focusing on level 2. The third level says whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, that spell deals damage to each opponent equal to the number of instant and sorcery spells you've cast this turn. So that's going to be the game ender attached to this combo. Last but not least, we have Storm Splitter. This is a little otter with haste, and it says whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, create a token copy of it. Exile all the copies at the beginning of the next end step. So essentially it's like Scute Swarm for spells. So the goal of this combo is to cast an instant or sorcery spell. You're going to get a bunch of little Storm Splitters, and then those Storm Splitters with haste are able to cast more instant and sorcery spells because Sorcerer Class allows them to tap for mana. And then whenever you cast an instant or sorcery spell, Jeskai Ascendancy is also untapping them. So you really only need Sorcerer's Class and Storm Splitter. If you're able to generate enough Storm Splitters, Jeskai's Ascendancy is not going to matter. But we're also including stuff like Fort Cliff Siege. This is going to give all of our creatures haste. So if all of our creatures have haste and they're mana dorks as well, Jeskai's Ascendancy becomes very important, and it just untaps everything, every instant sorcery spell we cast. As long as we've got cards that draw us cards and we're able to kind of pseudo storm into our entire deck, we are winning the game. Frostcliff Siege is also just super useful here because it's some added card advantage if we're not ready to give our creatures haste and trample. Convoluted combo out of the way, let's add Kaikar to the deck, right? Why not? Another kind of young pyromancer effect that triggers on non-creature spells. It also allows us to sacrifice the creatures we generate to add mana to our mana pool, so that's going to help us storm off. Pyretic Charge has won me games in these storm lists. What you do is you discard your entire hand, then you draw 4 cards, and then for each card discarded this way, creatures you control get +1/+0 until end of turn. It also has plot, so you could just plot it and wait for you to go off, and then whenever you go off, go ahead and discard 8, 4, 6 cards, whatever, buff up your entire board. It's kind of like your Craterhoof Behemoth in these storm lists. Rod of Absorption is also pretty useful here. This is just going to take every single instant and sorcery spell that's cast and exile it under Rod of Absorption. Then you can pay X and sacrifice Rod of Absorption and cast literally every spell exiled under it, as long as X is equal to the highest CMC of the instant and sorcery spell that is exiled under it. Super useful here, because again, we're casting it. We're not just getting to play them for free or whatever. The word is specifically cast. So all of our cast triggers are going to trigger again. We're also just going to shove Windfall in the deck because it's super useful for refilling your hand in these stormy lists. If we get a bunch of cantrips in our hand, we can trip away, and then sometimes you end up with no cards in hand. So just being able to refill them with 1 card is super awesome. That's going to do it for the deck tech, guys. Shout out to my patrons, Excessum, Irrelevant, Chicken Salad, Creator, The Professional Heal. You guys are amazing. I hope this helped everybody in their deck building endeavors, and I will see you guys in the next one.